mint-flavored kisses. In the soft glow of evening, she brushed her fingers through my hair, the subtle scent of mint-flavored lipstick lingering in the warm air. The apple blossom lotion, a fragrant reminder of the beauty we shared, hugged my skin like a second layer. As we sat close, her laughter sparkled like sunlight, filling the spaces between us. I felt her gentle touches, her fingertips dancing across the curve of my hip bones, tracing a map of longing on my bare skin. Her touch, a delicious mix of tender and daring, ignited sparks along my spine. When her lips met my inner thighs, it was like a whisper of fire. Her kisses, jagged and alive, left me trembling with anticipation. Each caress of her hand sent waves of warmth coursing through me, stirring emotions as she claimed every inch of me. My breath hitched as her teeth grazed my skin, leaving trails of sensation that made my heart race. I was lost in the symphony of her touch, the harmony of our bodies entwined in a dance of desire. The world faded, leaving only the two of us in our shared bliss, surrounded by the intoxicating mix of mint and flowers. As I surrendered to the sweet oblivion of ecstasy, the pressure of her lips against my wounds felt like healing. She kissed away my fears, each brush restoring pieces of me I never knew were broken. Our breaths, ragged yet rhythmic, slowly settled into a calming hum. Finally, as the night wrapped around us, she nestled her head against my chest, a moment of serenity after the storm. I ran my fingers over her hair, feeling her heartbeat in perfect sync with my own. In that quiet space, we were no longer just two souls but one, bonded by mint-flavored kisses and the tender love that pulsed between us. Continue the story. The night deepened around us, wrapping us in a cocoon of intimacy and warmth. The distant city sounds faded, replaced by the quiet rhythm of our breathing. In that moment, everything felt right in the world. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, steady and reassuring, a tangible reminder that we were here together. After what felt like an eternity of lying entwined in the soft sheets, she lifted her head and gazed into my eyes with a playful glimmer. The faint light from the bedside lamp danced in her iridescent hues, illuminating her features in a way that made my heart swell. "Tell me a secret," she whispered, her voice low and inviting. I chuckled softly, my cheeks flushing. "A secret? Like what?" Her smile widened, and she traced her fingers down my arm, leaving a trail of warmth. "Anything. Something you've never told anyone." Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and I knew that look well. It was the one that dared me to dive deeper. I hesitated for a moment, feeling exposed under her gaze. But something in her expression, full of love and curiosity, urged me to share. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "When I was younger, I used to think I was meant to be alone. I never felt like I fit anywhere, like I was always on the outside looking in." She listened intently, nodding as I continued. "But then I discovered how powerful it could be to love and be loved. And what we have, it feels like home." Her expression softened, and she leaned in closer, brushing her lips softly against mine. "You are not alone anymore. You have me. And I have you." The gravity of her words sank in, wrapping around my heart with a warmth that left me breathless. I felt a mix of vulnerability and strength, knowing I could share my fears and hopes with her without judgment. "What about you?" I asked, easing the weight off my shoulders. "What's your secret?" A shadow crossed her face momentarily, and I could tell she was considering her words carefully. "I used to be terrified of showing my true self to anyone," she confessed. "Each time I opened up, I faced rejection. But then I met you." She paused, locking her gaze with mine. "You made it safe for me to be who I truly am." A mix of gratitude and awe washed over me. In that moment, I realized how deeply we had intertwined our lives. Two hesitant souls emerging from the shadows. Our honesty felt like healing, each revelation patching the wounds we carried. We talked for hours, our laughter echoing against the walls. We shared our dreams, fears, ambitions, and even our childhood memories, the kind that sparked warmth. As the night transitioned into dawn, our bodies tangled beneath the sheets, and the world outside fell asleep, we embraced the magic of our connection. Eventually, exhaustion took hold, and I could feel my eyelids growing heavy. But before I succumbed to sleep, I reached out, intertwining my fingers with hers. "Promise me something," I murmured. "Anything," she replied softly, her eyes glistening. "Promise to always fight for us, no matter what happens." She squeezed my hand firmly, her voice steady with conviction. "I promise. Always." With that promise hanging in the air, I let myself drift off, cocooned in the safety of her warmth and the knowledge that the connection we had forged was not just a fleeting moment, but the beginning of something timeless. As sunlight began to filter through the curtains, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, side by side, hand in hand, heart to heart. Continue the story. As the first light of dawn painted the room in soft hues of gold and lavender, I slowly woke to the sensation of her fingers gently stroking my hair. For a moment I lingered in that space between dreams and reality, savoring the sweetness of the previous night, the warmth of connection, the thrill of vulnerability. I smiled to myself, feeling a deep sense of peace envelop me, knowing I was no longer alone. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said softly, her voice warm like the sun filtering in through the curtains. I opened my eyes to find her watching me, her expression a blend of affection and playfulness. "Good morning," I replied, my voice still thick with sleep. "I could get used to waking up next to you." Her laughter filled the room, a sound that sparked joy within my heart. "I'm glad to hear that, because I plan to make this a regular routine." We spent the morning wrapped in each other's warmth, stolen kisses and quiet laughter replacing the need for words. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted in from the small kitchen, but neither of us had any rush to leave our cozy hideaway. We stayed ensconced in bed, relishing the comfort of our newfound intimacy, and I couldn't help but wonder how we had turned from two strangers to lovers in what felt like the blink of an eye. After a while, realization hung in the air, a lingering responsibility that pulled at me. "We should probably get up and face the day," I said reluctantly, glancing toward the clock on the nightstand. "Ugh, do we have to?" she sighed dramatically. "I like this version of us, where we do nothing but lie around and breathe each other in. Maybe we can make time for that later?" I suggested, grinning. "But first coffee." "Definitely coffee." Reluctantly, I rolled out of bed, and she joined me, her laughter infectious as we shared playful glances while getting dressed. I slipped into a soft, oversized sweater that was her favorite, and it felt like a piece of her was still wrapped around me as I moved through the small apartment. As I prepared the coffee, I felt her presence behind me, her arms encircling my waist, pulling me back against her warmth. I leaned into her embrace, and the familiar song of our connection played in my heart. "You know," she said softly, her breath grazing my ear, "I've been thinking, maybe we should celebrate our first morning together." "Oh," I raised an eyebrow teasingly. "How do you propose we celebrate?" "A day of adventure," she announced. "Going wherever our whims take us. A day just for us." I turned to face her, my heart racing at the thought of an unexpected journey. "That sounds amazing. But what do you have in mind?" She released me and started floating around the small living space, gathering her things as she revealed her plans. "First, breakfast at that little cafe downtown. Remember the one with the rainbow pastries? Then we can visit the art exhibit I've been eyeing for weeks. Or we can go to the park, pick a spot, and have an impromptu picnic." My heart fluttered at the idea, each suggestion opening up endless possibilities. "I love it. I'm so in," I replied, excitement bubbling within me. The next hour passed in a flurry of laughter and playful banter as we got ready. She insisted on wearing the mint lipstick I adored so much. It became a sort of signature for her, a flavor of her charm that always reminded me of the magic we shared. We both claimed a tiny bit of space in front of the mirror, finally stepping back to admire the winning combination of our contrasting styles, me in my casual comfy sweater and her, always a little more vibrant, in her favorite sundress that danced around her as she moved. We left the apartment, stepping into the vibrant pulse of the city. Music floated through the air, and laughter echoed off the weathered brick walls as we wandered hand in hand, weaving through the streets. There was something extraordinary about being out in the world together, united by an unspoken bond that had formed so swiftly. The cafe was a kaleidoscope of colors. The rainbow pastries were a delight not just for their looks but for the way they tasted, sweet, whimsical, and just a little messy. We devoured our snacks, feeding each other bites and giggling like schoolgirls, the sheer joy of being together overshadowing everything else. After breakfast, we headed to the art exhibit, where we admired the paintings and sculptures that inspired a flurry of conversation. I watched her face light up as she described her thoughts, the passion in her words captivating me even more. Instead of merely looking at the art, we created new stories for each piece, a pairing of whimsy and seriousness that felt distinctly ours. As the day drifted on, we found ourselves in the park, sprawled out on a blanket beneath the shade of a large oak tree, the scent of grass and flowers filling the air around us. We shared heartfelt conversations, confidences whispered amongst the rustling leaves above. Time felt suspended, as if the world beyond us had paused to let our moment breathe. "About last night," she began, turning serious for a moment, "I've never felt so connected to someone before. It's scary but also liberating." I nodded, empathy washing over me. "I feel the same way. I didn't know I could feel this deeply so soon, yet here we are." She smiled, a touch of mischief returning as she playfully poked my side. "Didn't you say you were going to keep that a secret?" "Only from the world," I retorted, laughing. "You now know all my secrets." "True, but I plan to keep them safe," she whispered, a promise laced in her tone. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon in shades of orange and pink, we leaned back against the blanket, drawing closer together. A symphony of heartbeats and whispered dreams. The day had been more than just a celebration. It was a promise of what was to come. Adventure, passion, tenderness. Everything felt possible, and as I leaned into her, I couldn't help but think that the true adventure of our love was just beginning. Continue and end. As the sun set in a breathtaking display, a soft warmth enveloped us, both from the dwindling daylight and the connection we had forged throughout the day. Time felt elastic in those moments, stretching in ways I never thought possible, wrapping us in serenity and closeness. "How about we take a picture?" she suggested suddenly, her eyes sparkling with mischief again. "To capture this perfect day?" I laughed, nodding in agreement. "Sure. But let's make it a silly one. No serious faces allowed." I quickly pulled out my phone, knowing this would be a cherished memory. We huddled close, playful expressions plastered on our faces, and I raised the camera, my finger hovering over the shutter. "On the count of 3, ready? 1." We both erupted into fits of laughter, our faces a mix of joy and anticipation, waiting for the reveal. 3. I snapped the photo just as our laughter harmonized, a moment frozen in time, filled with pure, unfiltered happiness. After reviewing the snapshot, we both burst into delighted giggles, amazed at how silly we looked. "I definitely think this is going in a frame," she said, a glint of affection dancing in her eyes. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed me, sealing that moment in my memory with all the emotions we had shared throughout our time together. It was tender and sweet, a simple act that felt monumental. As we pulled away, her expression turned contemplative. "Can we make this a tradition? Capture a silly moment together every time we hang out?" "Absolutely," I replied, warmth coursing through me at the thought of the countless adventures waiting ahead of us, though I reserved the right to choose the location of our next escapade. "Deal," she agreed, and as the first stars began to twinkle above us, I felt the weight of promise fill the air. With our hearts full of laughter and connection, we reluctantly packed up our belongings as the sky deepened into twilight. We walked back toward my apartment, our fingers intertwined like two roots joining together in fertile soil. As we reached the door, I hesitated for a moment, my heart racing. Not from nervousness, but from the realization of how much this day had meant to me. "Would you like to come in for a bit?" I offered, warmth flooding my cheeks. Her smile widened, brightening her face. "I'd love to." Inside, we settled onto the couch, the remnants of the day still palpable. Our conversations resumed, flowing easily as we recounted our favorite parts of the adventure. With every laugh, every shared glance, I could feel the walls around my heart crumbling a little more. Eventually, we fell into a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the soft sounds of the world outside. It felt natural to rest against her shoulder, and I could feel her warmth wrapping around me like a cozy blanket. As she looked down at me, a soft smile gracing her lips, I couldn't bring myself to break the moment. Felt too perfect, too sacred. But I had a question pressing at the back of my mind, one that had lingered throughout the day. "Do you think we're moving too fast?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze turned serious, and she lifted my chin gently, making me meet her eyes. "I don't think so. Everything we've shared, every laugh, every second, it doesn't feel too fast. It feels right." The honesty in her eyes filled me with confidence. "I feel it too," I admitted. "I never knew I could feel so much for someone so quickly. But with you, it just makes sense." She leaned in closer, her voice low, almost a secret. "Then let's not overthink it. Let's let it flow, invest in each other's lives, and see where this beautiful journey takes us." My heart soared at her words, and all I could do was nod, a smile breaking on my lips. "I'd like that. An adventure together wherever it leads us." The evening stretched on, and as we dove back into comfortable conversation, dreams, and hopes, I felt something shift within me. It was as if I was no longer just living moment to moment, but rather stepping into a future full of possibilities. As the night deepened, the warmth of our shared connection wrapped around us like a cozy blanket. I could feel the excitement bubbling beneath the surface, a mixture of fear and thrill at the unknown awaiting us both. So together we closed our eyes, fingers entwined, ready to venture into the future of a love that felt both uncharted and familiar. In that moment, amidst the dreams and the promise of tomorrow, I understood that this was just the beginning of our incredible journey, one where we would explore not just the world, but also the depths of our hearts together, embracing whatever came our way with open arms. With her, I felt hope and light, ready to embrace each day like a canvas, eager to paint it with colorful moments that only we could share. And I knew without a doubt that all of it was worth the leap.